Again, so we're going to work on Chaturanga, and as I mentioned in our in-person sessions, I don't necessarily recommend teaching Chaturanga when you're a brand new teacher because it is considered a more advanced pose. It's an arm balance. It requires a lot of core strength, a lot of tricep and shoulder strength, and really a lot of full body awareness. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways that you could teach a modified variation, so with the knees down, and really work on getting the arm position correct before moving into a full Chaturanga, because as I'm sure you've experienced yourself and as you may have seen in other yoga classes, you'll see yogis putting their shoulders and arms in all kinds of strange positions, or taking the shoulders out entirely and just sort of flopping down to the floor in Chaturanga. And so we really want to make sure that we are in a position of strength, stability, and power. So go ahead, I've got a block here. We're gonna use that. We'll go ahead and use it right off the bat. I was gonna wait, but let's just do it all at once. So we're gonna take that block and we're gonna put it about where, when we lower, our lower rib cage will come onto the block. So mine was actually a little bit forward. We'll move it back a little bit. So this is going to help you gauge how far down you should be going in your Chaturanga. Because keep in mind, the Chaturanga is not the lower all the way to the floor. The Chaturanga is the sort of halfway position. So if I'm doing it from my knees, I'll start out in a plank pose. I'm gonna shift my weight forward onto my toes. So look as if I'm almost gonna roll over my toes. Then I'm gonna lower my knees, bend the elbows to point behind me, and just come down so that my lower ribs are on that block. So Chaturanga, my elbows are pulling into the ribs, my shoulders are lifting up away from the floor. Watch what happens. If I start to collapse on my shoulders, they point down towards the floor, I'm lifting them up. And when I'm ready to come out, I can simply press myself up, tuck my toes, come back to a plank. So this is a really nice way to teach a variation. If you teach it without the block, that's perfectly fine, but everything else still applies. We don't want to go too far. So finding your plank pose, shifting forward on the toes, then lowering the knees, bend the elbows, lower halfway, come back up and out, and back to your plank or your downward facing dog. So really working on getting that arm and shoulder strength to the halfway point, that is your Chaturanga. And then you can start teaching and working with yourself and your students to lower with control all the way down to the floor, and then to work through, upward facing dog back to downward dog. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. It's hard to talk and do this at the same time. So Chaturanga builds full body strength, core awareness, shoulder strength, tricep strength, wrist strength. It's really a full body engagement pose. And just really be mindful. We kind of whip through it in a lot of yoga classes. If you're gonna use it in your classes, teach it in your classes. Break it down. You don't have to do it every single time, but at the beginning of a class. Or if you start to see people doing weird stuff, stop your class and go ahead and really teach Chaturanga. We need more teachers that will actually put the details out there for the students to really learn it instead of just using it as a transition pose.